Hello everybody, this is Tip Top MTG here today with another Magic the Marveling video. For those of you who don't know, Magic the Marveling is this big project where I'm picking every single movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and turning them into a custom Magic the Gathering card set. So you'll see cards featuring your favorite characters, items, and events. So in this video I am covering Captain America and the Winter Soldier, so I'll be turning, again, characters, items, and events from this movie into Magic cards. Now, there's no time to waste. There are a bunch of these cards, and I won't be able to cover them all in this video. So if you want to see the full card list of both all the cards in this set and all the cards from the previous movies I've done, I'll leave a link in the description down below. So starting this off, why don't we look at Captain America Agent. So, Captain America is a 4-cost legendary creature, enhanced human hero, 1/5 mythic. He also has vigilance, and he says creatures you control assign combat damage equal to their toughness. And this is honestly supposed to represent the fact that he kind of has the shield, which is generally a really defensive thing, but he turns it into a very offensive weapon. And so he's allowing everyone to do that. And he also has, you can pay 2 and tap him, and it says target creature with defender loses defender, or target creature without defender gains defender. So you can kind of use him to nerf your opponent's creatures or buff your own. One thing to note while getting into this, blue, white, and red are the hero colors, and black, red, and blue are the villain colors. So as you look at these cards, imagine them in those type of archetype decks. So moving on to the second main character, we have Black Widow Agent. It's a 5-cost legendary creature, human hero, 5/5 with flash, and it says whenever Black Widow Agent enters the battlefield, you may tap target untapped creature you control. If you do, draw a card for each creature attacking you. So the idea here is you're being attacked by 5/1/1s, even just 1/1/1. Or 1/5/5, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna use Black Widow to kind of take you're being swarmed, which happens to them in the movie, and you're using that and gaining knowledge and information from it by allowing you to gain a bunch of cards. Honestly, kind of a fun card. I'm trying to make Black Widow's cards all focused around Flash moving from here on out, so you'll start to see that a little bit more. Now we are introduced to a new character who ends up, becoming fairly important. We have Sam Wilson, who's a legendary creature human, 1/3 with vigilance. Again, 1/3, Captain America will boost him. You'll see that's kind of on purpose. And it says if Sam Wilson is equipped with an equipment named Falcon's Wings or 3 pieces of equipment, transform Sam Wilson into the Falcon. So basically, you put a piece of equipment on him. If it's his 3rd piece, he transforms, or if it's his wings, he transforms. Falcon, legendary creature, human hero, 5/8. Again, Captain America will bump that up to an 8/8 with flying and first strike. And it says whenever Falcon attacks, target other creature you control gains flying until end of turn. And then also, if he becomes unequipped, from everything he has, he does become Sam Wilson again, because in the end, he is kind of just like Sam Wilson without his wings. So, interesting dynamic gameplay there. Speaking of Falcon's Wings, why don't we break those down? They are a legendary artifact equipment, 2 cost, and it says equip 3. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has flying, first strike, and this creature can block an additional creature in combat, because, 2 wings. And then pay 4, gain control of Falcon's Wings. Any player may activate this ability as long as Falcon's Wings are equipped and you control a creature with power and toughness that is higher than the equipped creature. Whew, that's a lot. So basically, if Falcon's Wings are attached to a creature and you have a creature that's bigger than that creature, you can steal those wings and put them on your creature, which generally is going to happen. Not going to happen because it has bonus power. And it has to be both power and toughness. So this generally won't happen, but it makes it, because they're stolen within the movie, things that are stolen within the set often have this any player can gain control of them text. So I thought Falcon's Wings should be no different, and that will transform Falcon. So it's kind of an interesting way to, mess with Falcon's card. Now, when we move into some of the bad guys, Alexander Pierce is a 1 blue, black, red legendary creature human 2/2, and he says whenever a villain or hero enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target Hydra or villain you control. I'll get into what a Hydra is here in a second. It's not the mythical beast. But what this basically does is it says, hey, whenever a villain or a hero that anyone controls is entering the battlefield, you get to buff up your creatures. And what makes it so powerful is the fact that, in the movie, he's pretending to be a hero, and so you could theoretically play him with heroes in your deck and gain advantage from it, and the heroes are actually doing the work to help the villain, so it's very flavorful there. It's overall just a really powerful card. It has all 3 villain colors, so it'd be a good commander. Overall, very good card. Now, what he also says is, as long as Alexander Pierce has a Hydra counter on it, it is a villain in addition to its other types. So what this basically means is he isn't a villain right away, but then as soon as the big plot reveal of Evil Within, which you'll see below, happens, he becomes a villain. and he becomes a Evil Within 4. Now, what that means, I'm about to talk about it. Why don't we jump right into that, actually? So, Brock Rumlow, he's a black-red legendary creature human 3/3, and he has this ability called Evil Within, and it's a black and a red. So basically, the Evil Within will say this: Evil Within, and then a cost. And what will happen is when you pay that mana cost, you'll put a Hydra counter on Brock Rumlow, or whatever the creature is. And as long as Brock Rumlow, or the creature, has a Hydra counter on it, it becomes a Hydra soldier in addition to its other types. So the Hydra counter is making the creature have more types, and cards will care about it, such as Brock Rumlow, who says if Brock Rumlow has a Hydra counter on him, he has Trample and Haste, so he just gets better. And he says whenever a creature with Hydra counter on it dies, you lose life and draw cards, so a Midnight Reaper-esque effect. What this basically does is if you can pay for his Evil Within effect the turn he comes out, so you have 3 black and 2 red, you can have a 3/3 Trample Haste for 5, which isn't great, but when you combine his other ability into it, it's a pretty good card, and overall showcases what the Hydra counters are trying to do as a mechanic. Now, another character that cares about Hydra counters a little bit more even is Jasper Sitwell of Hydra. It's a 5-cost, black and red legendary creature human. It says if Jasper Sitwell of Hydra does not have a Hydra counter on him, Hydra creatures get -1/-1. So this is supposed to be like him stopping Hydra, quote unquote, but not really. And then it says creatures you control with Hydra counters on them have menace. So basically, what you're going to want to do is when you have a bunch of creatures out, they're all going to have this Evil Within ability, and you're going to want to kind of flip him first. And we kind of see that in the movie. He's one of the first to be like, oh yeah, you're a bad guy. And so you're going to want to flip him to be evil first so that all your Hydra creatures are not being, downsized because of his ability. But then, once they aren't downsized, he becomes a super powerful person who's making it really hard to deal with all your Hydra agents. Now, moving on to our last Hydra character we're going to talk about Bucky Barnes and the Winter Soldier. So, Bucky Barnes is a 4-cost legendary creature human soldier, 2/2, and he has this ability to pay 3 and put a counter on him. And he says if he has 5 or more +1/+1 counters on him, or a Hydra counter, exile him and return him to the battlefield as the Winter Soldier. So this is supposed to represent how Hydra's kind of taking him in and turning him into the Winter Soldier. And the Winter Soldier is a 7/7 with reach for 4. That's kind of crazy, although you do have to theoretically put 15 mana into his activated ability to get here. And it says whenever the Winter Soldier attacks, put a Hydra counter on target creature you control. So you can turn creatures that aren't generally Hydras, in terms of the organization, into them. And it also says creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Hydra counter on them. And it says Evil Within, pay for 3. So he can get the Hydra counter on him for 3. Now, it might make more sense for him to already have the Hydra counter, but if you can pay 3 mana and put a Hydra counter on him, that's the same as putting a +1/+1 counter on him. So basically, you can reword his entire card too. Every, Hydra counters count as +1/+1 counters, and whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And you can pay 3 to put a +1/+1 counter on him. So that's pretty much what this does, although it also gets all the bonuses from being a Hydra counter. Overall, really fun card. Now we have a couple more cards to talk about. Moving back to some of the good guys, we have Nick Fury Deadman. He's a 7-cost legendary creature human, 5/5 with haste. And he says if he would die, instead exile him with 3 time counters on him. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Nick Fury Deadman is exiled with a time counter on him, remove a time counter from him. Then if he has no time counters on him, return him to the battlefield tapped. So the idea here is they think they killed him, and he's not actually dead. And so he comes back after a certain amount of time. And we've seen this in other cards that I've designed where they go away and then come back after a little bit of time, and so that's no exception here. Basically, a card that's going to keep coming back. Then we just have a couple various cards. I'm not going to talk too much detail about them. We have Peggy Carter, Maria Hill, Sharon Carter, and Cameron Klein. I'm just going to show them on screen. If you want to pause, you can look at them. But again, if you want to see all the cards, just check the description down below. There'll be a link. Now, we only have a couple more cards to talk about, and I want to talk about sagas, which in Magic are these things that kind of represent stories. And so since we're talking about a movie, which is a story, I feel like sagas are a perfect fit. The first saga I want to talk about is The Winter Soldier is Born. It's a 6-cost, mono black enchantment saga, and it says when it first enters the battlefield, you're going to make target opponent sacrifice the creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. So if you're Hydra, you're killing one of their guys, which in this case is Bucky Barnes. And then you're going to put the sacrificed creature from its owner's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you're going to gain control of that creature, and you're going to basically, you kill him, now he's under our control and he's going to fight you. And then you get to put 5 +1/+1 counters on him, which, by the way, is enough to turn him into the Winter Soldier. So if your opponent is playing Bucky Barnes and you have this card, you can kill that creature, gain control of it, and then transform him into the Winter Soldier, which is a devastating combo. Then we have Hydra's Takeover, which is supposed to represent Hydra going through and turning all the shield agents into bad guys. It costs 1 blue, black, red, and it says at 1, create 2 human soldier creature tokens named Shield Agent. Cool. Then 2, creatures you control have evil within 1 and a red. So you can basically... This card will, first off, turn Bucky Barnes into the Winter Soldier, and it'll just turn all your creatures into bad guys, assuming you have the mana for it. And then 3, Hydra creatures you control get +3/+3 and have Trample and Death Touch. So that 3 can really win you the game. Like, all of a sudden, you just have this giant army of Hydra agents who are working together, and they're all just going to come at you and murder all your creatures, which is very accurate. Now, there's one more, I feel like, very significant event, which is the Helicarrier Launch. And so this is an enchantment saga, and it says, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand. And then it says, the next artifact spell you cast this turn costs 2 less to cast. So you're going to be able to cast a spell for cheaper, which in this case would be the Helicarrier in the lore. And then it's 3 draw cards equal to the number of artifacts you control. For each card you drew this turn, destroy target creature. So you want to play this in a really heavy... artifact deck. Just note that you are going to technically have to validly choose 7 targets, and if your creatures are the only ones left, you will have to start killing them. So like if your opponent has no creatures and you cast this, you are going to have to kill at least one of your creatures. Also, this is basically the same as a board wipe, so and it takes a couple turns. So overall, I like the card. Now, there are a couple really fun cards I would love to talk about, such as the next Gen Helicarrier, which is a 8-cost artifact vehicle. It's not legendary because there are multiple of them. Flying 6/6, and it says whenever it enters the battlefield, choose any number of non-land permanents and put an algorithm counter on it, because we talk about the algorithm counter in Captain America Winter Soldier. And then whenever a next Gen Helicarrier attacks, destroy a random permanent with an algorithm counter on it. So this is supposed to represent how it's just going to start killing people, and the algorithm counter is going to start killing the big threats. So you get to choose what are the big threats, start killing them. Overall, really fun. Now, I'm going to flash by a couple cards on the screen right now. Those are some of my favorite cards. I really don't have time to talk about them. If you want to see more of them, again, link in the description. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button, subscribe. Any suggestions, leave those in the comments down below. As always, this has been Tip Top MTG. I hope you have enjoyed. See you in the next one. Bye.